At 4:30 a.m. on September 24, 2025, the remnants of Russia's Black Sea Fleet lay docked at Novorossiysk. This was where they came to lick their wounds, rearm, and convince themselves they would come back stronger. They thought they were safe. They had no idea Ukraine was about to shatter that illusion in just a few minutes. From the west, 6 AQ-400 Scythe drones are already screaming toward the port, flying at 90 minutes and just 50 ft above the water. These ghosts hug the Earth's curvature, staying effectively invisible to long-range radar. At the same time, from the south, 3 Magura V5 unmanned boats are carving through the waves. 2 are loaded with 700 Laldracer warheads. The third is a decoy, electronically screaming in every direction that it is a friendly patrol craft. The trap is set. "200 miles away, a Ukrainian operator watches it all unfold through the thermal eye of a Bayraktar TB2 loitering at 27,000 feet. His crosshairs are fixed on the crown jewel of the port, the Admiral Makarov, a $500 million frigate armed with 8 Kaliber cruise missiles, each one capable of bringing hell to Ukrainian cities. Tonight, that $500 million predator is the prey. The entire hybrid ghost strike hinges on one beautiful, brutal piece of battlefield psychology. A defender forced to look everywhere at once is effectively blind. The drones from the land and the boats from the sea are designed to overload the system, to force Russian computers and their human operators into making a choice they cannot possibly get right. The board is set. The pieces are moving. If you were the Russian commander, which threat would you take more seriously, the low-flying drones or the fast-moving boats? At 4:38 local time, about 7 minutes after the attack begins, the first alarm screams across the Novorossiysk command post. The massive Podsolnuk coastal radar finally has a contact. It is a fat, juicy signal, 50 miles out and closing fast, with a radar cross-section of about 110 square feet. It looks exactly like a patrol boat. The crew of the Pantsir S-1 battery does not hesitate. Their system roars to life. In the next 3 seconds, 57 E-6E missiles rip through the fog at Mach 3. The decoy Magura boat, which has been dutifully screaming, "I am a big important target," vaporizes in a flash of orange light and a plume of salt water that shoots 20 ft into the air. Except it was not the real threat. It was the bait. At that exact moment, a secondary Costa 2E2 radar, designed for low-altitude targets, picks up faint returns from the west. 6 of them, flying at just 50 ft. The computer flags them as anomalies, likely a flock of birds confused by the fog. And that is the detail everyone misses. A Pantsir S-1 is a phenomenal piece of engineering, built to shoot down fighter jets and cruise missiles. The problem is, its sophisticated Kalman filter gets clogged trying to track tiny drones with a radar cross-section of about 1 square foot, especially in fog and 4 to 6 foot waves that throw back a storm of false echoes. Their multi-million-dollar targeting system is being turned into a carnival game. The Ukrainian operator watching the Russian missiles hit his decoy plays his first card. He gives the command. 2 of the Scythe drones coming from Odessa spit out clouds of chaff, tiny hair-thin strips of aluminum that instantly bloom into radar targets 10 times bigger than the drones themselves. The other 4 Scythes do the opposite. They drop to just 30 ft, hugging the waves and using the Krasnodar cliffs to mask their approach. High above, the Bayraktar is feeding them the exact location of the Pantsir via Starlink, allowing them to fly right into its blind spots. The Russian gunners take the bait, hook, line, and sinker. Their screen now shows 2 huge, juicy targets. They fire another salvo of 4 missiles. The chaff clouds disappear in a pair of fireballs. But the cost for Ukraine is real. One of the scythes flying low is caught by shrapnel and disintegrates. The Russians have now burned through 12 of their 48 ready-to-fire missiles. Most of them launched at ghosts. And they have only taken down 1 real drone. The radar net has been beaten. But now comes the real monster. The Krasukha 4 is powering up, and it is about to try to turn every drone in the sky into a very expensive, very dumb brick. When the Krasukha 4 fires, an invisible 186-mile-wide hurricane of electromagnetic energy rolls out. In the Ukrainian bunker, the video feeds from the 5 remaining scythes dissolve into a blizzard of static. The operator's screen flashes red. Signal lost. Signal lost. One of the drones, now flying blind, lurches violently, its wingtip nearly clipping a wave. Sweat beads on the operator's forehead in the cold air-conditioned room. This is the digital ghost, an attack designed to turn smart weapons into dumb metal. The Russians are now trying to spoof the drone's GPS, feeding them false satellite data to trick them into thinking they are somewhere over the Pacific Ocean. But here is the secret nobody tells you about the Krasukha 4. It is powerful, but it is not instantaneous. There is about a 100-millisecond delay between when it analyzes a signal and when it blasts out the jamming frequency. The Ukrainian AI on these drones makes its decisions in 50 milliseconds. It is like trying to turn off the lights to stop a man who has already memorized the layout of the room. The Krasukha is trying to blind a machine that already knows the way by heart. The Ukrainian operator flips a switch. The drones are now in INS and AI autonomous mode. They ignore the GPS lies and navigate using hypersensitive internal gyroscopes and preloaded terrain maps. They are flying on instinct. At the same time, the Bayraktar circling high above the electronic storm spots the source of the interference, a single ugly antenna array on a truck. The operator makes a choice. He sacrifices one of his 5 remaining scythes. He designates the Krasukha antenna as the new target. The drone breaks from the pack and becomes a 154A430 B, $30,000 guided missile. The truck-mounted jammer that cost Russia millions of dollars vaporizes in a flash of light. The signal is back. The operator can see again. But the Russians have another trick. As the Krasukha dies, its big brother, the Murmansk BN, awakens. It projects a massive spoofing field, and this time, it works. One of the 4 remaining scythes gets confused and veers 2 miles off course, lost to the mission. 3 scythes are left. The electronic ghosts are gone. Now come the hunters, with their electronic warfare screen shattered. The Russians do what they always do when things get tough. They send in the brutes. From a coastal airfield, 3 Orion drones lift into the pre-dawn sky. These are Russia's airborne assassins, purpose-built hunter-killers, and they are now on the prowl for the 2 remaining Magura boats and the 3 scythes that just embarrassed them. The lead Orion pilot, scanning the sea with his thermal camera, gets lucky. The fog is thick, but one of the Magura V5s makes a slight turn. Its warm engine exhaust briefly creating a clear thermal bloom against the cold water. That is all he needs. The lock-on is instant. A Koa B-20 guided bomb drops from the Orion's wing. For that Magura V5, there is no defense, no warning. The weapon strikes the unmanned boat dead center, and 700 eleb of Ukrainian high explosives, meant for the Russian flagship, detonate prematurely. The explosion is massive, a geyser of fire and water erupting 20 kilometers into the air. Half of Ukraine's naval punch in this sector is gone. This is where the Russians think they have turned the tide. But here is the detail that gets lost in the spec sheets. The Orion is a fine piece of hardware, flying at about 120 meters. That is faster than the Scythe's 90 meters for sure. But in this thick coastal fog, it is like a state trooper in a muscle car trying to catch a dirt bike in a dense forest. And more importantly, they only have 3 of them defending this entire sector. 3 hunters against a scattered pack of targets. The Ukrainian operator, having just watched one of his USVs get obliterated, makes his counter move. It is brilliant. He orders the last remaining Magura V5 to cut its speed to just 20 km/h, becoming a silent shadow hiding in the troughs of the 6 FT waves. At the same time, he commands the 3 remaining scythes to switch to cold mode, routing their minimal exhaust upward and flying dangerously close to the Krasnodar cliffs, using the terrain to break up their heat signature. The hunter has just become the hunted. The high above it all, the Bayraktar TB2 is the all-seeing eye. The fog that blinds the Orions is just a blanket of cloud beneath it. The operator sees the lead Orion as it circles, searching for its next kill. He sends the Orion's exact coordinates down through the Starlink connection. One of the Scythe drones receives its new mission. It is no longer heading for the port. It peels off from the cliff line, climbs slightly, and turns its nose toward the hunter. The Orion pilot is looking down, scanning the waves for a boat. He has no idea that a 30,000 plywood drone with a 154 lb warhead is climbing up to meet him from behind. The result is inevitable. The Scythe slams into the Orion. Russia's top-of-the-line drone hunter, a multi-million-dollar asset, disintegrates in a shower of shattered composites and burning electronics. Ukraine has lost a USV, but Russia has lost its eyes in the sky. The 2 remaining Orion pilots, now confused and without their leader, pull back, trying to make sense of the chaos. With the skies partially cleared, the last Scythe drone and the last Magura boat push into the harbor's final defensive perimeter. The sound comes first, a deep mechanical roar. It is the AK-630, close-in weapon system, waking up on the deck of the Admiral Makarov. 10,000 rounds per minute. It is not a gun. It is a flying wall of 30 mm high explosive shells. The night air erupts in a stream of red tracers, a literal fire hose of steel aimed at the incoming drone. And it is devastatingly effective. One of the 2 remaining scythes is simply erased from the sky. 1 drone left. But here is the dirty little secret of the AK-630, the one they do not put in the brochure. It burns through its entire ammo drum in about 20 seconds of continuous fire. Its MR-123 radar is a relic designed to track incoming sea-skimming missiles, not a tiny, cold-mode drone made mostly of plywood. And then, there is the biggest vulnerability of all physics. That Russian gunner is not standing on solid ground. He is on a $500 million warship that is rocking plus or minus 5 degrees in the 6 FT swell. He is trying to hit a target the size of a lawnmower moving at 90 mph while riding a mechanical bull. The Ukrainian operator makes his final desperate gamble. He pushes his stick forward, and the last scythe does not fly straight. It begins a serpentine burst, a series of violent, unpredictable, computer-assisted jinks and turns. Left, right, up, down. Each turn is calculated to be faster than the CIWS targeting computer can update its firing solution, as if on cue. The last Magura V5, now just 10 miles out, fires off its final payload of chaff, creating a massive false target on the ship's radar and momentarily confusing the CIWs. High above, the Bayraktar paints the primary targets, the fuel depot and the caliber launch tubes, with an invisible laser, feeding the final attack coordinates to the last scythe. On the deck of the Makarov, it is pure chaos. Sailors are firing their rifles into the sky. Someone even launches a shoulder-fired Verba missile, a heat seeker that is completely useless in the thick fog. The AK-630's tracers are still hosing down the sky, but now they are chasing a ghost. The gunner is guessing, firing at shadows, and his ammo counter is screaming towards zero. The last scythe punches through the wall of steel. The Russians have thrown everything they have at this attack, and they have failed. The final drone is now inside 550 yards. The game is over. The camera on the last scythe locks onto its target. The view is crystal clear, the main fuel depot on the pier and, next to it, the 8 gleaming launch tubes of the Admiral Makarov's caliber missile system. The drone's AI needs just 50 milliseconds to adjust its course. Checkmate. The drone does not aim for the ship's bridge. It has a much smarter target. It slams directly into the pierside fuel depot. The impact itself is not the story. It is the physics that happens next. The drone's 154 lb warhead is a shaped charge. It does not just explode outward. It focuses the entire blast into a single molten jet of copper moving at 8,000 IFT per second. This is not just an explosion. It is a high-speed physics lesson. That jet of metal punches through the depot's one-in steel wall like it is made of wet cardboard. But the real genius of the attack is what happens 1.3 seconds later. The burning fuel spreads, sending flames and heat toward the Admiral Makarov, cooking its missile systems. It does not sink the ship. It does something far more strategically brilliant. It cooks the delicate launch mechanisms and guidance systems of the caliber missile tubes, turning a $500 million weapon of terror into the world's most expensive piece of scrap metal. The aftermath is immediate and catastrophic for Russia. The port of Novorossiysk is a raging inferno, while the Admiral Makarov, its entire port side blackened and warped, is crippled. It is not sinking, but it is not going anywhere. More importantly, its 8 caliber missiles, which were likely scheduled to be fired at Ukrainian cities, are now silent, useless tubes of steel. The Ukrainians did not just destroy a target, they saved lives. They proved that the myth of the invincible Russian fortress was just that, a myth. From a bunker 200 miles away, using about $1.2 to $2 million worth of hardware, Ukrainian engineers and soldiers have just turned Russia's last safe harbor into a national humiliation. The tactical lesson is simple. Never underestimate an opponent who can turn cheap parts and a brilliant idea into a strategic nightmare. If you are on Team Ukraine, smash that like button and tell me in the comments what was the single most brilliant tactical move in this entire operation.